Scrum Masters Elite_UK welcomes you, a place to share lessons on discipline, adaptability, and growth from sports. Subscribe now.
What stayed with me most was the stark contrast between the two halves. The first half was tense and tightly contested, even giving the impression that Drua could genuinely pull off an upset. They played with great energy, weren't afraid of physical contact, defended aggressively, and knew how to disrupt the Blues' attacking rhythm. From a personal perspective, I was truly impressed by this fighting spirit. It reflected a team that was far from fragile, even if they might be considered less experienced or lacking in squad depth. But it was precisely here that an important lesson began to emerge. In high-level sports, effort alone is not enough. Drua played well, even better at times, but they couldn't maintain consistency. Small mistakes accumulated and ultimately became the deciding factor in the outcome of the match. This made me think of many aspects of life. Sometimes we work hard, have good ideas and ability, but if we lack discipline or become careless in small details, the final result can still slip away. In contrast, the Blues presented a very different picture, not overwhelmingly dominant from the start, but patient, adaptive, and capable of exploding at the right moment.
Their second half felt like a complete upgrade, more precise, more powerful, and especially more clinical in taking chances. It clearly highlighted the value of patience and adaptability. A slow start is not always a disadvantage, as long as a team, or a person, can learn from what just happened and adjust in time. One particularly thought-provoking element was Payton Spencer. His performance followed an emotional curve, from shaky and uncertain in the first half to confident and effective in the second. I didn't see an inconsistent player here, but rather a process of growth unfolding within the 80 minutes. Spencer's first half mistakes, such as indecisive handling or poor judgment, were, in fact, very human. These are moments anyone can experience under pressure. What matters is not the mistake itself, but the response afterward. Spencer didn't collapse or let it weigh on him for too long. Instead, he entered the second half as a better version of himself. To me, that carries more significance than a single scoring play. It shows strong mental resilience. Something that will shape a player's long-term future.
From this, I draw a very clear personal lesson. Mistakes are not the end, but the beginning of adjustment. In life, we often fear making mistakes to the point of not daring to try, or we judge ourselves too harshly when we do. But in reality, what matters more is the ability to reset, to renew your mindset, learn from errors, and keep moving forward. Alongside Spencer, the performances of young players like Rampling and Barnes also offered a positive perspective on the next generation. They didn't just do their jobs, they showed confidence when facing more experienced Drua players. This made me reflect on a crucial factor in any collective: trust in youth. In this match, the Blues didn't rely solely on veterans, they gave opportunities to new players and placed trust in them. When that trust is repaid with effort and effectiveness on the field, it creates a positive cycle. Young players develop faster, the team gains depth, and collective spirit is strengthened. This feels like a very practical lesson, not just in sports but also in work and life. Without giving opportunities, you'll never know someone's true limits. And conversely, when given a chance, stepping up and proving yourself becomes essential if you want to go far.
Another aspect that cannot be overlooked is the Blues' tactics and playing philosophy. Their approach, based on powerful attacks, constant pressure, and capitalizing on opponents' mistakes, may sound simple, but it requires a high level of discipline and coordination. In this match, Drua's repeated errors essentially fed that style of play. This made me think a lot about the concept of opportunity in both sports and life. Opportunities don't always come from doing things well, sometimes they come from others doing things wrong. But to turn opportunity into results, preparation and execution are essential. The Blues did this very well, while Drua did the opposite. They created chances but also let them slip away. From a fan's perspective, this match brought a special kind of emotion. It wasn't a one-sided victory from the start that made everything predictable, but a journey filled with fluctuations, mistakes, adjustments, and eventual breakthroughs. Matches like this tend to leave a deeper impression because they reflect the true nature of sport. Imperfect, yet full of emotion and competition. At the same time, it reminds fans to evaluate players and teams more fairly.
A poor 40-minute performance doesn't make a player bad, just as a loss doesn't mean a team is weak. Development takes time, and judgments should be based on the whole process, not just a single moment. As for Drua, despite the loss, I still see many positives. They have an exciting, skillful, and unpredictable style of play. But their biggest issue, and ultimately the decisive one, lies in discipline and consistency. This is not something that can be fixed overnight, but if improved, they could become a far more formidable opponent. For the Blues, This victory not only brings points but also reinforces confidence in their squad depth and ability to turn situations around. However, objectively speaking, they are not perfect either. The first half showed they can still be challenged, and against a more disciplined opponent, chances from mistakes may not come as easily. In the end, what stayed with me most was not the 40-15 scoreline, but the lessons behind it. Mistakes are part of the journey, but how you respond to them is what truly matters. Discipline and consistency can be just as important as talent and creativity. Opportunities are always there, but only those who are ready can seize them. Trust in young players can bring long-term value to a team. Above all, it's a very real reminder, no one is perfect, no team is perfect, but it is precisely the flaws and the way we overcome them that define the true value of the journey.
Farewell from Scrum Masters Elite _UK. Mistakes don't mark the end, they're just the beginning of growth and breakthrough.